Welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Season 2. I am Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. And in 30 minutes each week, we break down the mindset and the strategies you need to build and grow in 2021. Season 2, we are talking all about product sales, automation, and how this can make such an impactful next step in your practice evolution. If you have not caught our first couple episodes, or you want to check out all of Season 1, please visit thesmartchiropractor.com, or you can listen in and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, you name it, anywhere where your favorite podcasts can be found. You can find The Smart Chiropractor. Today, we're talking about how a doc can consider and think about curating their favorite things to have for sale in their e-commerce, their online store. We've created a framework and a matrix. We're gonna break that down. We're also gonna talk about not only how you think of it, but how you actually take the action steps to get there and to get progress in the right direction, which ultimately leads to sales and service to the people in your community. So as we start to discuss, what the heck do you have in your store? Where should we begin, Jason?
Well, I think, let's look at sort of what the landscape looks like so we can figure out, I like to think of it as, are you a zigger or are you a zagger, right? Do you go with all of the current, or do you create what is sort of known as the blue ocean versus the red ocean? Right now where most of the online sales are is typically, obviously, Amazon or other big companies. Target, Walmart, we buy stuff online, free shipping, and that's where most of it is going. Now, with that comes the need to, when I go to Amazon and I'm looking for anything, there is some effort required to figure out which one to buy. The fact is, when I want to find every option, when I want to find out the best price of something I know I want to buy, I go there, okay? But the question is, how do I know what I want to buy? Okay, and I don't just mean category, I mean specific product. And oftentimes that means I've either spoken to a friend who's recommending something, or an expert who's recommending something specific to a problem I want to solve. So we're not just talking, interior design preferences. We're talking about, what's the difference between buying CoQ10 or omega fatty acids at a big box retailer versus a professional grade type supplement. And I think most professionals know there's a difference. Yep. And that applies to all different kinds of things. I mean, you can buy pillows anywhere, or you can buy pillows that actually support your neck. And the list goes on for exercise and so on. We created what we call we call it the DPR filter. And DPR stands for demand, profitability, and relevance. And whatever product you choose should kind of go through that filter, right? Is there a demand? All right, so there are some chiropractors, and what's inherent in chiropractors and chiropractic itself is the need to educate, right? People need to understand what we do better, or you don't educate and you just simply give people what they think you do. I think most chiropractors know the distinction there and so on. So the question really is there a demand? And one of the ways to answer that question is to see, are people buying these products in volume at other places, whether it's Amazon, Target, Walmart, down the street, if there is still a down the street by the time this podcast comes out. Is there a demand for it, okay? The idea here is not to waste your time trying to teach people about a product they don't already want. Yep. Okay, so demand is sort of the first filter. If there's a demand for it, the next question is there any profit to be made? To do this requires some level of time, energy, and credibility. And as much as I'll think of ourselves as servants, we should get reimbursed for the time it takes to do what we do. Not just for the time it takes to make the recommendation, but the joke is, somebody says, you were with me for 30 seconds, you're charging me $50. 30 seconds, $50. You go, yeah, but it took me 4 years plus to be able to deliver my service in 30 seconds, right? So it's not just here's what you should go buy, it's the years of knowledge it took and experience and probably mistakes or learning experiences that you probably got to in order to determine years later what's now your favorite thing, which may be different than what it was years ago. Yep. Okay, so demand, do people want it? profitability. Is there some profit to be made, right? Can you buy it for one price and sell it for more, right? Is it worth your time, okay? And then the third one really is relevance, okay? And relevance is really sort of a super important thing because you want to work with momentum, right? So one of the absolutely legitimate arguments against this whole idea is it's hard enough to teach and invite your primary service if I'm now going to take my time and have to sell a new idea that's not relevant to what I'm already teaching. That legitimately would be a distraction.
Yeah.
Okay. But if there's a demand for it and there's profit to be made that's reasonable and it's relevant to what you're teaching people anyway, those are sort of the friction points or the deciding points or our DPR filter to say, if you can come up with a product or series of products or type of product that there is demand, you can make a few bucks and it's relevant to what you're already teaching or what you're paying us to teach for you, now you got all the momentum, you got little to no friction, and this is where the automatic part comes in. When we can, on your behalf, not only teach them about what would get them into your office, but also teach them about what will get them into your office and onto your store, because there are different solutions to a common problem. Now all of a sudden everything starts getting easy. Instead of climbing uphill, you're using gravity and going downhill. And I think that's really sort of the filter or framework that's the difference between I've got a store, I sell things, with I've got a store, people buy things, and I hardly have to do much of any of it. And anything I do because I actually really enjoy it and I want to share more because of my authentic enthusiasm, but it's not all dependent on me and my enthusiasm. That to me is, I think, how you curate, and that's the right word, is opposite of go to Amazon and find anything and everything. What we're teaching is the exact opposite. That if you go to our store, I guarantee you it's a good thing because it wouldn't be in our store if it wasn't. We're not here to provide you the selection for you to choose. We've done the selecting for you. So we may only have one pillow, we may only have one mattress or one fill in the blank, but it's because we've done the research and this one is our favorite. So I think there's added value to consumers to go, you can buy anything in our store and not worry about it because we've tested it, we've done our due diligence, we've tried it, we like it, we trust the endorsers, we've read the, whatever your decision-making process is to make it your favorite thing, somehow it became your favorite. And we'll assume that's all ethical and honest and because it's to the benefit of the person you're talking about, not your favorite just because it's the most margin. So I think if people use that as a filter and really curate and sort of err on the side of offering less things, not more things, and making sure that they're relevant to what they're already teaching already or what we're teaching for them, this becomes, again, I keep saying, inertia or gravity. You're letting the natural forces of momentum work in your favor.
I'll flip it around and say, how do you know if you have a problem? And then how do you know you have a problem is if either of those rings are broken, right? Meaning number one, demand, as you said, you don't need to push rocks uphill. If there's great profitability and it's relevant but you're trying to, get out there the use for telegrams, there's just not a lot of demand for that, right? So it's about demand in the marketplace, and that is, that's a wave. That's an avalanche. If you hop on at the right time, you can just utilize market forces without having to, you don't have to push rocks uphill, you can push them down. But the second piece of it is, you can get all the traction in the world, but if your profitability is 0.0001 cents, you're really spinning your wheels and you're never gonna see the fruits of the effort that you've put in. So that's why profitability doesn't mean any specific amount. It just means there needs to be something there enough to keep you motivated and engaged to desire to talk about the product in a meaningful way. And then the third piece, as you well described with the relevance, if you have something that has high demand and it has high profit, but it seems like you're talking about car tires, it has nothing to do with the services that you offer, or you're having difficulty even tying it in, that's probably an issue with relevance, where it's not really relevant to how you're teaching Friday favorites, for instance, how your emails are going out, continuing to teach and invite. It should be a natural progression. So if you're finding yourself apprehensive, if you're just you have to think so hard about how this ties in, that's a great indication that you've gone off the rails with that ring. But if all three of those rings are in harmony, which is what we've really designed with SmartCare stores, then you really are in the best position to move it forward with the least amount of effort, the most amount of benefit for you and your patients, and the most amount of traction. And for docs, I know we were talking before we hopped on this episode, docs probably sitting there saying, okay, I get that. Now, how do I go about making that initial list? And you had a very easy way to go about this. Probably going to seem almost very basic, but I think it's very impactful for how does a doc think about, how do I even start thinking about this and listing things out?
Well, we've got our protocol. We talk about relevance. If you're a Smart Chiropractor client currently, member, or you're thinking about becoming one, you'll know that we have monthly campaigns, weekly topics, and daily posts that are done for you, that are, created for you, researched for you, designed for you, and sent for you. Okay? So it basically skips the hardest question most chiropractors are asking themselves, which is, how do I sell this? How do I let people know? How do I promote it? And so on. That's really, I think, just to make sure everybody's hearing it, you're already doing that work, or you're paying us to do that work for you. All right. So this is just I think you referred to it as sort of a sidecar. Like, you're already going. This just comes with you. And so I think that's what sort of makes it easy. And I think that's ultimately what, chiropractors should be taking advantage of is, go with the flow, use the momentum, and use the inertia of demand to really help sort of. There's a difference between selling things and offering things to people who want to buy things. And people are coming to you with a problem for a solution, and often these things are part of that solution package that historically we would just go like, oh yeah, maybe you do need some of that. Go get it somewhere else. Or maybe you need to also work with it. Go get it somewhere else. When now you can just make it simple and easy, even in bundles.
Well, the easiest thing that you described is just pull out that pen, pull out your iPhone, and over the next week, take a keen listen to what are the people in your practice asking you about. We're going to build, as we go on with this season, we're going to talk more about the automation and the marketing of it. We're going to talk more about the sales component and how to do that. We're going to talk about how do you build a robust selection, not to have everything like Amazon, but a carefully curated, robust selection with a few different maybe tiers or product types, as we'll discuss, but you got to start somewhere. And I think that's where it comes to getting to the first of our filter, demand. What are your patients already asking about? And if you start listing those things down, I have a feeling everybody listening probably already knows a few, but by the end of this week, you'll have a few more, and that is the best and easiest place to start because there's already demand. Your people are asking. The question is, what answer are you providing?
Jeff, we had this conversation earlier. It might be something valuable to just sort of bring up. When we are chiropractors thinking about our own practice, our own patients, our own people, we're sort of in the bottle and can't really read the label. So, just for example, on what you're sort of bringing up as a topic, you were saying if you're a dentist, and I'm not a dentist, obviously, but if I think of a dentist, it would seem obvious to me that I should be buying a special toothbrush, and I should be subscribing to receive my dentist's favorite toothpaste directly shipped to my house every month. I should be buying that from my dentist. That's not a stretch. I should be buying my glasses from my optometrist, right? If they're doing the work to go, here's your prescription, here's the work, why are they not also going, and by the way, for your convenience, here's the glasses and we'll make them up and ship them directly to your house, right? So dentist, optometrist, if you're a chiropractor, you kind of think, well, a pillow seems like at least the very natural, that's what people would expect from you. So I know that, different docs think about things in very different ways. Some have previous nutrition training. Others don't. I know for a chiropractor, sometimes it sort of took me a while to kind of go, but I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not trained in nutrition. And, so what we're saying to make sure we're really clear for everybody, especially the critics, is that this is not about prescribing supplements for a problem while all you're doing is adjusting and focusing. It's really adding on a solution that people already expect and come to you for help with. So you don't need additional training. You don't need to offer a different, department or something like that. These are the other things that go along with your expectation of being here. And I think, like you said, there's a couple ways to do this. One is, what are my favorite things, right? So when we teach doctors, who are members to do their Friday favorites, which is a weekly Friday video, some of our members choose to do, they like to do videos, and they go, hey, it's Friday, welcome to another episode of Friday Favorites. Today I want to highlight one of my favorite. And so if you were thinking of yourself that every Friday you'd do a video like that, make your list. I'm sure it would, grab a cup of coffee or beer, wine, or whatever, and just go, what are the top 20 must-haves? I'll give you another way, we talked about this as well. When you look at like fashion magazines or even business magazines and so on, they'll usually highlight an influencer, someone famous or someone who's a CEO or someone and they will ask a question like, if you were stuck on a deserted island, what 20 things would you bring with you? And that's I think the way to start the engine running with you as an individual doctor / human being, all right? And maybe spouse and parent. What do you know after all your experience, after all your trials and tribulations and your research and everything, what conclusions have you come to about the absolute must-have products that most people should have, not because you want to solve their sciatica or because you want to solve their headaches or solve their, in particular, something, and you may want to do that also, but really as what I think of as everybody, every day type products. Everybody's got to get a good night's sleep. I don't care what condition you have. That's what you got to do, which means you got to have the right type of surface and pillow to get a good night's sleep. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what condition you have. Everybody, every day. That fits that model. So I think, chiros can sort of self-select, if you are a headache specialist or a, TMJ or, whatever specialist you are, and there's your top 20 because that's what you choose to specialize in, that's an option. If you are a pain reliever doc specifically, then come up with your top 20 pain relieving solutions. If you are a lifestyle type doc, then what are the 20, essential things? And you start with 20, and then we can put them again through the DPR filter, which has the most demand, which has the most profitability, which has the most relevance. And for our members, sort of cat out of the bag, you heard it first, that's the extension of the Smart Chiropractor. The Smart Care store is adding the product that already aligns with the monthly topics we're already teaching people anyway. So that it becomes yes, I will continue to come to you for care for that. And wow, I didn't even know, but thank you very much. I should absolutely have your favorite things as my new favorite things as part of the things I expect from you. And oh, by the way, I may not go home and tell people about how much better I feel after your adjustment, but I might tell them about how much better I'm sleeping because of the pillow you recommended. And I'll tell you, that's pretty darn good way to be in people's conversations whenever and however you possibly can. I think the other part of all of this, I could make the argument that if chiropractors followed this plan, because it requires such little time and effort, I would make the argument, and I'm not saying it should be only this way, but if you never made a penny on the store, but people stayed longer and referred more, you're still profiting even though, you might not make a ton of money on each individual product. So because you're also in the service business, because you're a doctor, because you're an expert, and because you're building an audience of people that are going to come to you not for the product necessarily, but for the service and expertise you provide, this becomes another doorway for people to want your services as well. And you see people do this. You see sometimes, we're not big fans of discount offers and deals, but just for the sake of example, there are those that say, when you sign up for a first visit, we'll give you a pillow, or we'll give you a massager, or some other product that is perfectly relevant with what they're coming to you for, and some people choose to give that as part of their discount incentive. I'd rather have them come in, learn about why they want it, and basically pay you a full and reasonable fee for it in your store. But hey, people are allowed to choose however they want.
There's an important distinction, though, that you said there, and that is the difference between discounting your primary highest value service offering, which typically is the care that you deliver based upon the education, the labor, the skill, et cetera, right? There is just hard value. It's where the overhead comes in, as we talked about. You operate the clinic, you have the practice, you pay the mortgage. You want to ensure every moment of every single day that you are maximizing your opportunity there. Yeah. But I think there are some very, very interesting ways that you can go about utilizing products, as you said, and providing some small discounts where appropriate, where applicable by law, et cetera, to be able to generate interest, to be able to build goodwill, to be able to build your brand in a way that sort of, to a certain extent, protects you against the discounting of your service, where now it's let's make a deal, but that really enables you to expand beyond that. And one other point I wanted to touch on before we wrap up this episode is the thought of a supplement, a digital product, and a physical product. And I know when we think about this through the lens of the Smart Chiropractor, our monthly campaigns, our weekly topics, our daily posts, and as we go in subsequent episodes into Friday favorites and really detail that out, what you had started to tease into, there's a lot that makes sense as far as offering a supplement each month, as far as offering a preferred product, physical product each month, and then a digital or an informational-based product each month, because different people have different interests and different people learn or engage in different ways. And I think there's so much to be said for that. As we kind of said earlier, it's criminal in my mind that every single toothbrush, toothpaste, and floss is not sold by a dentist. And sometimes chiropractors get paralysis by analysis, where our berth tends to be a little wider, as you kind of said. It's like, well, how do I even choose? Like, there's not necessarily just one thing. There's kind of all this stuff, and how do I sort through it? So using frameworks like demand, like profitability, like relevance, then taking it one step further and saying, okay, as we implement this, I start to think about Friday favorites. And now, even within a monthly campaign, all right, if this month is all around the cervical spine, now I can choose a supplement that ties, to that. I can choose a physical product that, that's going to be helpful and that completely is in line with the cadence of my marketing campaign, and a digital or an information-based product that can teach people something beyond what I have the time, availability, or interest of doing within the four walls of my practice. So how do you think about those things?
Yeah. I think that unfortunately, most chiropractors are doing it the hardest way possible, which is one-on-one. And it is the most difficult, least profitable way to do exactly that. And that's really what technology allows us to do, is we can speak one to many, and we can say it once and people can watch it for over and over and over and over again on their timeline, not necessarily ours. That's the power of technology that our profession is really yet to embrace. We're like, oh wow, cool place to put in a new discount ad. There's a lot more power to these technologies and tools, and they truly are revolutionizing the world. I mean, listen, Amazon's now hitting all-time highs, Sears going out of business, okay? There wasn't long ago before Sears was Amazon of the day. And it's because of technology. There's no Tower Records anymore or any of these other travel agents anymore. Our profession will be disrupted, okay? As is, orthodontists now. People are buying things online, right? We talked about, Invisalign or other types of products that are online direct-to-consumer brands first. So that's going to happen. Chiropractors will either sort of get with the technology and times or won't. I will tease a concept if you're still, watching, listening to all of this, but the goal I want people to start thinking about, and this is a stretch for some to think about, but there was a time where it was smart to, if you had extra space in your practice, to rent out enough space to other practitioners to cover your overhead, so that basically you can practice for free. So whatever it is that you're doing was profit. I believe that more and more doctors will be able to use this store concept in that way, that they will generate enough revenue. And I don't mean day one or day two. I'm not trying to overpromise and underdeliver. But if you really allow this process to take place and understand it, that you should be generating, and it should be your goal to generate at least enough revenue to cover sort of your monthly recurring expenses, so that whatever services you're providing and whenever and however you're getting paid for whatever you do is basically profit. And I really believe that's the future of what I'll call the stress-free practice, which to me is the practice of the future. Too many chiropractors, the dirtiest secret in chiropractic, in my opinion, is that too many chiropractors are so stressed out financially that they oftentimes need the care and the stress relief more than the people on their tables. And that's a curable disease. It just requires some smarts. But I think hopefully that's some of the ideas that we're introducing, that more and more chiropractors will go, wait a minute, this is, we're living in a new world. I mean, these are pandemic times, these are technology times. Look at the stock market, look at the news. This is where the world is right now, like it or not, and we're either going to get with it or we'll continue to struggle and suffer, and we may be right in our righteousness, but it will be at the cost and expense of stress, frustration, I dare sometimes say relationships, and families. So this is one of those both right things to do for them, right things to do for you, right things to do for your family. And again, it's hassle-free. So thus the passion of trying to help our profession understand, because when you see a solution, when you see the light, when you go, there's the opportunity, that's our goal and job, is to try to help as many chiropractors, help as many people possible, be as profitable as they can with the least stress that they possibly need in order to accomplish those goals.
Well said. The action step for this week. Number one, be sure to subscribe. If you have not subscribed yet on YouTube, or if you are not subscribed to the podcast on Apple, on Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast providers, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating, review, or feedback. That helps more docs find out about this podcast. Action step number two is think about profitability, demand, and relevance. And write down, create a list of those 10 things, those 20 things that your patients continually ask you about. Get that list started. We're going to continue to explore throughout season 2 of this podcast how you can automate sales, how you can have e-commerce become a bigger component of your practice, not only for the opportunity, but for the safety and stability that it provides. So for my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch, I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid, and we'll catch you next week on another episode of The Smart Chiropractor.
This episode brought to you by The Smart Chiropractor. At The Smart Chiropractor, we solve the two biggest chiropractic marketing challenges, content and consistency. We combine an incredible content library with powerful automation tools to supercharge your marketing. The result? More new patients, more referrals, and more reactivations with automated digital content marketing.
Here's what Dr. Mike Marino had to say. The Smart Chiropractor's content, auto posting, and other tools is simply the best ROI I have seen in 20 years of practice.
To learn more and get started, visit thesmartchiropractor.com today.